It was one of those lazy Saturdays, you know? The kind where you are alone in the house, just doing a bit of cleaning, maybe dancing around to some old school tunes, lost in your own little world. My husband had gone off to help a neighbor with some yard work, and I figured I'd use the time to tackle the mess that seemed to accumulate no matter how much I tried to stay on top of it. So there I was, in my sweats and an old t-shirt, hair tied back in a messy bun, moving to the beat of a song that took me back to high school. As I twirled around the living room, dusting the shelves, I felt a presence, like someone was watching me. I turned towards the window, and there he was, Alan, my husband's friend, standing outside with a sheepish grin on his face. He was holding the lawnmower he had borrowed a couple of weeks ago, probably dropping it off. I must have looked like a complete fool, but there was no way to play it cool now. I opened the door and waved him in, laughing at the situation. "Caught me at my best, didn't you?" I joked, trying to hide my embarrassment. Alan just smiled, stepping into the house, looking a bit unsure of himself. "I didn't mean to interrupt your dance party," he said, a slight blush creeping up his cheeks. "I just came to return this, but well, I guess I couldn't help but watch for a minute. You looked like you were having fun." I laughed it off, telling him it was nothing, just me blowing off some steam. We made small talk for a bit, but I could tell something was on his mind. Alan wasn't usually this quiet or distracted. I offered him a drink, figuring it would be rude not to, and he accepted. As we chatted, I noticed the way his eyes kept drifting towards me, like he wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. "Is everything okay?" I finally asked, setting down my glass. He seemed startled by the question, like he'd been caught off guard. "Yeah, everything is fine. Just, I don't know, it's silly." He paused, looking down at his hands. "I guess I am just worried your husband might get the wrong idea. You know, me being here alone with you and all." I waved it off, telling him not to worry. My husband trusted him, and besides, we were just friends. But there was something in his eyes, something I couldn't quite place. It was like he was struggling with something inside, and I couldn't help but feel a strange mix of curiosity and something else, something I didn't want to admit. As Alan got up to leave, I noticed something, a tension, an excitement that hadn't been there before. He leaned in to give me a quick hug, something he'd done 100 times before, but this time, it felt different. His arms lingered around me a little too long, and when he pulled back, his face was closer to mine than I expected. Before I knew it, we were kissing an impulsive, heated kiss that took me by surprise as much as it did him. For a moment, the world seemed to stop. All I could think about was how right it felt, how much I'd missed this kind of passion. But then reality hit, and I pulled away, breathless and confused. Alan looked just as shocked as I felt, his eyes wide with a mix of guilt and desire. "I'm sorry," he stammered, taking a step back. "I didn't mean to, I should go." But before he could leave, I stopped him. Maybe it was the loneliness or the fact that I hadn't felt this kind of excitement in so long, but I didn't want him to go. Not yet. "Wait," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Dawn to go. Let us just talk." He hesitated, but something in my voice must have convinced him. We sat back down on the couch, and before long, our conversation shifted to something lighter, something playful. It started with a joke, then a playful nudge, and before I knew it, we were playing around like a couple of kids, laughing and teasing each other. It was like all the tension from before had melted away, replaced by this exhilarating, almost innocent fun. At one point, I pulled out an old box of toys, silly things we kept for when our nieces and nephews visited. We started goofing around with them, making up ridiculous scenarios and voices. It was silly, sure, but it was also thrilling in a way I hadn't felt in years. There was something about the way Alan looked at me, something in the way he laughed, that made me feel alive in a way I hadn't in a long time. As the afternoon turned into evening, the playful energy between us began to shift. There was a moment, a quiet, intense moment when our eyes met, and I knew what was about to happen. We kissed again, but this time, it wasn't a surprise. This time it was deliberate, intentional. And it led to something more, something I never thought I'd do. We ended up in each other's arms, exploring emotions and sensations I hadn't allowed myself to feel in years. It was exhilarating and terrifying all at once. There was guilt, yes, but also a strange kind of liberation, like I was rediscovering a part of myself I'd long forgotten. Afterward, we sat in silence, the weight of what had happened settling over us. Alan looked at me, his expression unreadable. "We can let this change things," he said quietly, and I nodded, though deep down I knew it already had. How could it not? We spent the rest of the evening talking about life, about what we wanted, about how complicated things could get. It was strange, how close we felt after everything that had happened, like we shared something no one else could understand. Before he left, Alan offered me a snack, something small, a gesture that felt oddly intimate after everything that had transpired. We ate together in silence, a comfortable silence that somehow made the whole day feel surreal. As he walked out the door, I knew things would never be the same, but I also knew I didn't regret it. Not really. There was something in that moment, something in that connection that I needed, even if I couldn't fully explain it. The next day I went back to my routine, pretending nothing had changed. But deep down, I knew it had. I discovered something about myself that day, something I wasn't sure I could ever forget. As I close this chapter of my life, I realize that sometimes it takes an unexpected encounter to wake you up, to remind you of the things you've been missing. And while I don't know what the future holds, I do know this life is too short to ignore those moments of connection, those brief flashes of something real. So if you ever find yourself in a situation like mine, don't be afraid to explore it, to see where it takes you. But also, remember to be honest with yourself and with those around you. Because in the end, it is the truth that will set you free, even if it was a truth you're not ready to face. And with that, I'll leave you with this thought. Life is full of unexpected twists and turns. Embrace them, learn from them, and never stop searching for what truly makes you happy. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like and subscribe for more. And remember, sometimes the most surprising moments are the ones that teach us the most. Until next time, take care.